before we got started on the recording on why I have you on the podcast today. And I was sharing with you how I came to learn that grief is an emotion. Um, Throughout life, at school, in society, in medical school, we're always taught that grief is a process. You go through it. There's the 5 stages. You might go back and forth along those 5 stages, but eventually you come to acceptance. And then I was introduced to this whole world of grief as an emotion. And that's what I want to share and unravel that myth of grief being something that has a beginning and an end, and we get to lock it away and put it away.
Yeah.
Um,
Because as you know, as being a doctor, that grief has the most devastating effect on the body if it's pushed down and held in. So this is why it's very important for us to have these conversations and to look at grief as an emotion. Means that it's going to come in waves. Okay, so the main thing really is that when somebody gets triggered further down the line by a memory or something that then sets them off crying, most people then start having to go at themselves to say, I should be over this by now. And that's where we need to really sort of bust through that myth, because there is no such thing when you've lost somebody that you love from moving on from that. What we do is we find a place in our hearts to accept that they're not physically with us anymore, but they are forever in our hearts. And anybody that's struggling with a broken heart, having lost somebody, can actually be picked up on an ECG machine. So it's not a fantasy or something that's in somebody's head when they are carrying that pain of loss. I experienced it like a stabbing pain, like it's like a knife was sticking in my chest. And there was nothing I could do with my NLP techniques to take that pain away. I could cope and manage myself in the day, but it just was sitting there. And it felt also like my husband was the other side of that. And there was nothing I could do to get to him. And that was the worst feeling in the world for somebody that had been close to somebody, that you have those conversations, you think, did I say that out loud? But when I did the training and I worked through this program, that energy shifted, the pain dissipated, and the connection felt made again. So if anybody ever says, oh, they've got a broken heart, or they think they've got this pain, it's something that will be picked up on an ECG machine. So it's real. It's not in your head. And it's about healing that pain that you're carrying in your heart that can allow you to dissipate that holding on to what you think it should be. And often it's things like guilt. If I let go of this person and start to live my life, I'm doing them a disservice. And you'll have friends and say, oh, no, they'll want you to do this, that, and the other. And yeah, it's the way you feel that's important. And to be brave enough to look at that and work on it is it's, that takes courage in some cases. And that's where I feel honored and privileged to help somebody with that phase as well. And so if anybody comes across patients in your case that is struggling, then it's something that I would love to have a conversation about, because to me, everybody's unique. So there's no format for this. There's no regimen. There's no tick box, which is interesting when you mentioned that process that people are used to being shown that was actually developed for something else and taken and grief applied to it. I mean, the first stage is denial. I mean, was no denying Andrew had died. The body was right there, but it can be the trauma of it that'll come into and sort of repeat itself. As you know, the dopamine drops down and you can't string a sentence together in those first few days. And until that starts to dissipate in the following weeks, that's when I think people would say, oh, the that phase is finishing.
Yes.
Because the denial part is not that you're not denying it, and it's you end up going into some sort of coping mechanism because you have things thrown at you to deal with that you didn't really think you were going to have to deal with. So if anybody's going through this right now, and you've got somebody that will offer to help and you can trust, delegate. That is my partner. Delegate. Anybody that can do something, just ask them to do it, because it's enough for you to have to sit and think about